does America have an obligation to become engaged? With me now is former Deputy Assistant to Vice President for National Security Affairs, Stephen Yates, and Fox News military analyst, Colonel David Hunt. All right, let me go to Stephen Yates. Where is Stephen? Stephen's right over here, or am I going to...
Hi, Judge.
Hi, Stephen. All right, let me ask you this, Stephen. What we know so far is the possibility of this chemical weapon being used. How will we know if this is a kind of thing that is being used against our people? We just heard from Dr. Garner, but is there a way for us militarily to know if it's coming at us?
Well, I think we'd have to rely intensively on intelligence. With this Syria problem in particular, we've known for a very long time their possession of these chemical weapons capabilities. And so really what we have is a profound problem of lost time. We've had a civil war ongoing for 2 years. The president's called for Assad to go. We've known for a very long time that this challenge could be coming. And with Syria as a state sponsor of terrorism and a massive proliferation risk, we won't really have that much warning when something like this comes.
All right. And to my good friend Colonel Hunt, do we get involved if Assad does release chemical weapons against his people?
I'm at a loss to understand what's the difference between killing 30,000 to 40,000 people with bullets and killing thousands with sarin gas. I mean, I think Syria has stepped over the line. However, I don't think we can afford another war in the Middle East in 11 years. Well, I don't think we have interest.
And, you know, Colonel, you make a great point. I mean, whether you're killed by a bullet or you're killed by a bomb or you're killed by a chemical, it's still 40,000 people have been murdered. We haven't done anything, and now there's starting to be this rumble that we need to get involved.
I think we're being pushed into a corner by people who want us involved in Syria, and I think it's a mistake. I think we're going to help the Syrian rebels like we did in Libya. But people on the ground, unless we're going to go try to get WMDs, which we might try to do, or protect our allies on their borders, direct intervention for Syria, I think, is a huge mistake. 2 wars in the Middle East in 11 years is enough.
All right. And Stephen, what about the idea of these chemical weapons and the risks to other countries if they're used? So, for example, is there a plume or something that can go into Turkey or into Israel or somewhere in a neighboring country that then will force our hand?
Well, I don't have a perfect understanding of how this gas spreads. My impression is that it will not stay for an infinite period of time and float long distances. And so they would have this disperse into targeted areas, is what I understand the utility of this kind of a weapon. But the risk of it being transported to other locations, regardless of where it's initially used, I think is a greater threat.
All right, and you're nodding your head, Colonel. You agree with him?
Yeah, I do. Jordan's because of the prevailing winds. We have Jordan as a big problem if they set this off, say, for example, in Damascus. It's why we have some special forces already in Jordan, ostensibly training the Jordanians. But if we get a real handle and they really have weaponized the sarin gas, we won't probably allow that to happen.
All right. And what about Turkey? Is Turkey someone that a country that we could rely on?
Absolutely. The Turkish have friends. They're very, very good soldiers. They're concerned with the Kurds as they were in Iraq, as they are in Syria. And they've got a very good military, but they need help. And that's why we're pushing missile defense into Turkey on the border controlled by U.S.
All right. And Stephen, with respect to this whole idea of, you know, all of the countries that would be involved, if Assad is taken out, who comes in?
Well, that's an enormous problem. There's what we've seen so far in the drama that we refer to as the Arab Spring is that there's very little engagement or leadership post-conflict, and the organized force remaining is the one that gains an advantage, and it tends to be the political or militant wing of an Islamist movement. And so there's no reason for me to believe that after this long conflict with infiltration from al-Qaeda and other affiliates around the region, that post-Assad that they wouldn't be the strongest organization standing.
And, you know, Colonel Hunt, I mean, this whole thing, I mean, we look at what happened when Mubarak was dethroned, and then we've got Morsi and you know, the Muslim Brotherhood, and now they have this constitution that is bypassing any kind of judicial review. I mean, do we have any hope as to who the next leader might be?
No, and without having an influence on who the next leader is, we shouldn't get involved in taking out the current one. That's the mistake we've made in a lot of countries. This is going to be a bloodbath when Assad leaves. The Alawites, the Sunnis going to go after the Alawites who are in charge now. Then you got a Sunni Shia war, and you got Hezbollah in the middle and Al-Qaeda. It's a bloodbath without us in the middle. Another good reason not to get involved in this.
Right, and you know, not to mention, Stephen, the Christians, the Druze, the Shia, the Sunnis, the Alawites, and Stephen, at the end of the day, do you see maybe a balkanization of Syria if something like this happens?
Well, I agree very much with what the Colonel has been saying, and I do think that this conflict is likely to go on for a very long time, even post-Assad, if that day should come soon. But we have a grave risk of not taking seriously the spillover effects of this going on long and dangerous things going beyond Syria's borders.
All right, Colonel David Hunt and Stephen Yates, thanks so much for being with us this evening. And coming up, the fiscal cliff.